Kia ora, good evening. I'm Hannah Wilkins. Vocal protesters from a newly formed three-pronged group are making their feelings heard loud and clear in Dunedin, rallying against impending university staff cuts.
Strong emotions were on display throughout Otago University on Wednesday. Members of the Protect Otago Action Group were part of the 400 protesters chanting and waving signs through campus, expressing their anger towards the institution. The protest follows an announcement from the university in April saying it was facing a $60 million budget deficit. They have since been calling for voluntary redundancies ahead of further cuts across academic and administration staff. The action groups working to unite university staff, students and the general community, taking matters into their own hands. Community Representative Tyler West riled up protesters with a short speech before joining in the march towards the union lawn. The action groups say this protest is just the start for them as they look to continue the fight, holding more events next semester. In Dunedin, the South today.
National leader Christopher Luxon has told a Queenstown audience they have a clear choice at this year's election. He says voters must decide between the coalition of chaos or a national-led government he claims will fix the economy, lower the cost of living and restore law and order.
National leader Christopher Luxon meeting Queenstown residents in the first stop of the party's latest campaign, dubbed Get New Zealand Back on Track. Luxon addressed around 150 people in Queenstown alongside Southland MP Joseph Mooney. He was keen to outline National's new policies and goals to the audience, focused on turning the country's economy around.
Well, look, we've got to be able to do both, haven't we? And we've got to be able to build more houses in this country. It's one of our biggest problems that we have, is that we haven't been able to unlock sufficient land. We haven't been able to densify over transport hubs. We've really got to build more houses. That's the bottom line.
Luxon told those in the resort town he wants to power up tourism, with the sector generating a large amount of money and growth for both the region and the country as well. The national leader also took questions from the audience. When asked how his party would relieve pressures on housing and staffing shortages, he believed both could be solved by building more houses.
I mean, the issues are the same issues that I see up and down the country. How do you fix the economy so that we lower the cost of living crisis? That's a major issue for people, as you well know, here in Queenstown, particularly with respect to housing costs. We need to make sure that we restore law and order and that we have personal responsibility in place.
Luxon and his entourage then travelled on to Arrowtown, visiting local ice cream shop Patagonia Chocolates, where he met an enthusiastic young businessman, Flynn Laker. The pair chatted about Laker's online store, Flynn Socks, over some ice cream. Luxon's road trip continues in Queenstown with a business breakfast before continuing on to Alexandra. In central Otago, the South today.
A nationwide Hands Off Our Homes campaign has kicked off in Canterbury, protesting government plans to replace the Resource Management Act with new central planning committees. The Taxpayers Union is urging people to fight the proposal, which they say would take some planning decisions away from local councils.
Hands off our homes. That's the call from the Taxpayers Union. It's following up last year's successful Stop Three Waters campaign and is again hitting the road for a 4-week nationwide roadshow. This time the team are highlighting their concerns over the government's proposed replacement to the controversial Resource Management Act.
We're particularly concerned that this seems to be yet another example of centralisation by this government. We've seen it with Three Waters, where they were looking to take water assets away from local councils. They're looking to do the same thing with planning powers and transfer them to new regional planning committees, which will be unaccountable and will undermine local control.
Those proposals would see 15 new co-governed central planning committees created across the country. The Christchurch community meetings are the first of a number planned over the next month. The roadshow will visit 30 towns and cities, from Invercargill to Whangarei, campaigning alongside federated farmers in some stops.
We're calling on the government to pause these reforms, to withdraw the legislation and to actually go back and consult more widely with people. The Resource Management Act does need to be reformed, but this is not the way to go about doing it.
But Purvis says they've already made some positive progress after receiving an email from Environment Minister David Parker on Monday.
He did say that the government are going to backtrack on the some of the concerns that the Chief Justice has raised around the Environment Court and the possibility that the National Maori entity could have a monitoring role over that Environment Court, which he was concerned would be inconsistent with New Zealand's constitutional arrangements.
The roadshow winds its way down south this week, with meetings scheduled in central and south Otago, ahead of stops in Invercargill on Friday and Dunedin on Saturday. In Christchurch, the South today.
A large electronic retail store is closing its doors for good on Dunedin's George Street following loud noises coming from roadworks.
Noel Leeming had a review of their George Street store's performance last month, making the decision to not renew their lease. This comes off the back of a large number of stores complaining down the main street, with the loud roadworks causing problems with their business. Many places have signs in their windows ensuring customers they are open, but have their doors closed to keep the noise from drowning out the work inside. Foot traffic has also been affected by the upgrades on the street, which is one of the factors taken into account by Noel Leeming to shut down their store. They're scheduled to close their doors for good on Friday, but their much larger Crawford Street location will remain open for business. In Dunedin, the South today.
One of the last remaining DVD rental stores in the South Island is closing its doors, the victim of changing times. United Video in Invercargill has seen a number of changes over the years, but is getting ready to fade to black.
All movies must go. That's the call as Southland's only remaining DVD store plays out its final scenes. It'll be the end of an era for this kind of home entertainment in Invercargill, United Video announcing its closure this week. One of the last DVD stores left in the country. Owners Daryl and Kim Blackler have many fond memories of the store, having been renting and selling DVDs here for almost 40 years.
A lot of these movies we've been collecting, and we are sort of devoted to that collection as well. And now that we're having to close the doors and sell out off our wee babies, so to speak, it's sad.
Blackler admits the lack of demand for DVDs is due to the rise of video streaming services, alongside online gaming and social media. All of that leaves people with no shortage of access to entertainment. The couple have broadened their market a few times to try and survive. The store also stocks vinyl records, collectible game cards, comic books and other items. But ultimately, the DVD business couldn't sustain itself. Blackler agrees it's sad, but accepts it's just another step in the evolution of movies.
When we first opened up in DVD, that was a technological change, VHS. And we probably had an effect on other ones that were in the entertainment business at that time.
The United Video rental chain boasted 100 stores across the country at its peak. Over the next month, the Invercargill store is inviting customers to get their hands on some great movie deals, including rare films that can't be found elsewhere. Blackler estimates they have around 80,000 DVDs to sell before shutting up shop, but insists it's the people they'll miss the most.
It's that community base that we've developed over the years that puts the sadness in us, because a lot of the ones that come in here regularly every week, we aren't going to be able to look after anymore. And that comes with a bit of heartache, to be honest.
Although there's no fixed closing date yet, the couple plan to continue selling off the collection over the next few weeks, before the credits roll for the last time. In Invercargill, the South today.
Yakane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. A fairy tale ending at home for halfback Aaron Smith with the Highlanders. And a generous donation strengthens a boating partnership in Riverton, helping make the coastline a little safer. Tēnā koe, welcome back. The southern chapter of rugby star Aaron Smith had the perfect ending last week as the Highlanders claimed victory over the Reds. It was Smith's final game at home for the franchise and plenty of fans were there to join in the celebrations.
12 years on, a record 184 appearances later, Aaron Smith.
A standing ovation from Highlanders supporters as star halfback Aaron Smith marched onto the field at Forsyth Bar Stadium for one last time. The Highlanders struggled initially in the crucial clash, opponents the Reds leading the game 14-0 early in the first half, before the home side managed to close the gap.
He scores this time. There is the response.
Aaron Smith passed a ceremonial baton in the 60th minute of the game as Falau Fakatava took over on the park. The halfback making the most of it, darting over and shattering the Reds' hopes of a second straight win in New Zealand. Aaron Smith was buzzing with emotions after the match, joining his team in celebrating the win over the Reds and his final game on home soil.
Aaron Smith can't believe it. Send Aaron Smith off in the most appropriate of fashions, and they have kept their season alive.
The final score of 35-30 sees the Highlanders claim 8th spot on the Super Rugby Pacific ladder, 1 point ahead of the Force. Smith will be back with his team this Friday as the Landers face the Blues at Eden Park in their final round-robin game. In Dunedin, the South Today.
With the winter months fast approaching, there's a development that's set to make the rugged waters around Southland's coast a little safer. A long-running partnership between the Riverton Coast Guard and a local boat show has been strengthened thanks to a generous donation aimed at keeping ocean goers safe.
A good day on the water for Riverton boaties, as the local Coast Guard received some new equipment. The boost is thanks to a donation by the Southland Boat Show, which has helped to outfit Riverton Coast Guard's rescue jet ski with life-saving GPS technology.
A GPS is incredibly important. We've had a lot of rescues and things where GPS coordinates and things can be handed down for rescues and things, so it's pretty important. It's right up there as far as things go, really.
The local Coast Guard team is made up of around 20 volunteers, with the Riverton area receiving 10 to 12 call-outs a year. And while many are minor scenarios responding to fuel outage and flat batteries, West says it's important to have the right equipment ready for when the bigger events do happen.
We live on a piece of stretch of water where there's 2 rivers feeding into an estuary, so we need something to get across the estuary and up the rivers pretty fast, and this wee baby here can do it.
The relationship between Riverton Coast Guard and the boat show goes back about 30 years, and it's a cause the show organisers are glad to be supporting.
Their work's really important. I'm a boatie and I go out. If something goes wrong, I want to be able to be saved, basically, so I think it's important.
This year's Southland Boat Show is scheduled for mid-August at ILT Stadium Southland, with the Coast Guard team planning to be there, chatting with boaties and giving tips on how to stay safe on the water. In Riverton, the South Today.
The Gore District Council is restoring land at a local park back to its natural habitat. The restoration efforts gathered support from school pupils, service clubs and major businesses, joining together to plant more than 2,000 native plants.
Lending a hand to plant native trees around Hamilton Park and taking an active role in the project. Around 30 pupils from St Mary's School assisted volunteer staff from Otago Valley Milk, spending their morning digging holes and planting trees near the park. Their involvement was welcomed by Gore Parks and Recreation Manager Keith McRoby, who says it's an opportunity for the children to actively participate in a meaningful community project.
It's great for the kids, really, and it's much better than being in the classroom generally. So.
The project builds on earlier work carried out in 2005 by the Gore and District Amenities Trust, who generously donated around half the funding for the plants. Teacher Michelle Christie emphasised the importance of giving back to the park, which she says aligns with Catholic teaching principles of stewardship and caring for God's creatures.
Being out here in the field and actually being able to give back, lots of children come over here and play and they'll be able to say, we took part in replanting that area.
The children says they enjoyed being part of the community project, learning how to plant the trees, giving them an understanding of the importance of preserving nature. In Gore, the South Today.
A creative competition is being held in Dunedin, supporting the government's aim of a smoke-free Aotearoa by 2025. Escape the Vape is hoping to raise awareness on the dangers of smoking and vaping, opening up discussions around the addictive and potentially harmful practice.
Colourful poster designs helping spread the message for World Smoke-Free Day. Te Hura Otago Museum has launched its Escape the Vape national poster competition, raising awareness on the harmful habits of smoking and vaping. It encourages young people to design a poster portraying the reality of vaping and the culture surrounding it. Museum communicator Christine Weirder believes it's a great way for kids to learn the different harms the bad habit has.
Social impacts of vaping, the physical impacts of vaping, or even the emotional impact that it has or the links it has with our mental health, especially in young people of New Zealand.
She says it's also an opportunity to call out fake information around vaping and highlight the effects it has on communities. An under 15 section was also made for younger kids to participate, with the winning poster for both sections being awarded a huge prize.
And the 2 winners of each of those sections will get $1,000 cash, as well as their poster will travel with us all over the country.
The winners will also take part in a hands-on science showcase touring around the country, providing insights into the impacts smoking and vaping have. In Dunedin, the South Today.
An interactive Otago Museum exhibition made its way down south to teach local youngsters about our changing climate. A number of eager Invercargill school children were treated to the showcase, even getting involved themselves with some fun science experiments.
Mind-blowing excitement for these Invercargill school children, with a hands-on educational exhibition showcasing the science behind our changing climate. The interactive presentation, called Islands to Arcs, was developed by Emily Eastgate of Tuhura Otago Museum. It's been on tour across the Pacific, aiming to help people understand and better respond to climate change.
So it's about teaching what the impacts are, but it's about also weaving through the fact that there is a lot of hope to this as well. We just kind of need to find the inspiration to move forward and act on that.
The lively presentation used small-scale experiments to demonstrate the large-scale features of climate change. Also on display were a wave tank, a cyclone simulator and an augmented reality sandbox, giving the young students plenty to engage with. 8 Pacific languages are represented in the exhibition, with a key focus on the island nations most affected by rising sea levels and ocean acidification.
As our islands are becoming more and more vulnerable, they're becoming arcs of refuge for native species, but also our languages and our cultures.
She hopes the project might engage the island community politically and help attract more Pacifica people into the science sector. More than 100 kids attended the showcase in Invercargill, continuing its travels, with the showcase journeying on to Niue next month. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Whaiakane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. Gore's country music season gets underway as utes, mullets and dogs meet the Southern Field Days. And listening rather than reading was on the menu at Invercargill Public Library for Music Month. Tēnā koe, welcome back. A local Queenstown scooter rider is carving his way to the top. Corey Griffiths is set to make his mark on the global stage as he gets ready to head off to the World Scooter Championships.
Grinding his way to the top as Queenstown scooter guy Corey Griffiths gets ready to travel to Madrid, Spain for the World Scooter Championships. It's the biggest event of the fast-growing sport, with serious world ranking points on offer for successful riders. Griffiths qualified to compete at the Champs in February this year, after finishing in the top 10 at the FRS New Zealand Scooter Champs in Napier.
Top 10 qualifies for Worlds, and I managed to slip into top 10. And I got the email a couple months ago saying I'm a part of the New Zealand scooter team, and I can go qualify. I can go compete at World Champs.
The World Champs are on in mid-June, with competitors able to compete in the 2 specialties, park and street. Griffiths is hoping to make an impact in the street section, which focuses on rails, ledges and ground tricks.
So the street section is filled with rails and ledges. It's lots of grinds, lots of precision. The scooters aren't very big, so we've got to be pretty precise to grind those rails, balance and all that technical stuff, you know.
The Central Otago and scooter communities have come together to help get him to Spain, with more than $1,600 raised on a Give a Little page for Griffiths, along with being featured on North Beach's Instagram and Facebook pages. Corey Griffiths heads to Madrid next Tuesday, giving him a few days to get some practice in ahead of the big 3-day World Champs. In Queenstown, the South Today.
The country music season was tuning up in Gore, with families gathering in Waimumu for an event with a quirky Southland theme. Around 80 utes were on show, revving their engines as part of a ute muster event, with big mullets proudly on display too.
It wasn't sheep and cows being rounded up at this muster. Drivers were instead showing off utes of different shapes, sizes and ages as part of this year's Tussock Country Music Festival. The Hokanui Ute Master was just one part of the big Southern Field Days event in Waimumu, along with flowing mullets and a noisy baka. The event is a firm fixture on the region's rural calendar.
A significantly increased crowd size, probably due to the mullet competition is gaining some traction. The bark up, there's a lot of dogs here, and we also have a mechanical slippery pig this year.
A range of categories were up for grabs at the muster, including Best Trade Ute, Best Ute with a Dog and Best Rural Ute. Wyndham's Donald McFadden and his children were enjoying an afternoon out, showing their 1983 Series 3 Land Rover.
I've saved it from its farm life. So it's back on the road now and it's going like a champ.
Gore Mayor Ben Bell was also enjoying being part of the atmosphere, gathering the public's vote for the People's Choice Award.
It's awesome. I get to look at all the different utes, get to talk to people. It's one of the better parts of my job.
The Tussock Country Music Festival runs over 10 days through to June 5th and includes the headline Gold Guitar Awards. Money raised from the weekend muster will be donated to the Southland Rural Support Trust. In Gore, the South Today.
A ski sale, which started in Queenstown 30 years ago, attracted a huge crowd last weekend, prompting organisers to let bargain hunters in early. The Whakatipu Ski Club sale offers a range of second-hand ski and snowboard equipment and gear, with the weekend's queue stretching back to the car park of the event centre.
It was a rush for the best gear, with all hands on deck as the annual Whakatipu Ski Sale opened for business in Queenstown. More than 2,000 mountain goers rushed to the Queenstown Event Centre on Sunday in an effort to bag a bargain on skis, snowboards, boots or clothes before items ran out. Organisers were forced to open doors early this year, with a large number of bargain hunters lining up outside more than an hour before the 12:30 start time.
I don't know the exact numbers at the moment, but I would say it's pretty consistent. Yeah. I'd say it'd be a couple of thousand people through the door at least.
Whakatipu Ski Club President Adrian Hodenot believes the 30-year-old fundraising event is valuable in the ski resort town, assisting people to get their winter fix despite the rising cost of living.
You can come down here and you can get kitted out for your ski season in what I would call a pretty reasonable price.
It was a hectic sale, almost half the gear on offer flying out the door within half an hour of the event opening, with many lucky buyers managing to get what they needed for a good deal.
And like I said, a young woman brought some race skis.
Yeah.
They're super expensive race skis. They're really heavy. They're really high tech. $375, and they look brand new to me.
Money raised from the popular annual ski sale go towards keeping the Coronet Peak Lodge in top shape and ready for when the ski season opens in mid-June. In Queenstown, the South Today.
The Invercargill Public Library took a leaf out of Dunedin's book last weekend, hosting a day of listening rather than reading. The Southern Junction event was part of New Zealand Music Month, showing off some of the talent on offer in the region.
From covers through to originals, as more than a dozen Southland artists busted out a tune for residents to enjoy. Musicians scattered across the Invercargill Public Library on Saturday, offering a little bit of everything for the Southern Junction event. Every nook and cranny was filled with live music around the library, with the goal of celebrating local music with an element of discovery.
Scattered all around the library throughout the duration of the event, and they get to play the music and the community gets to enjoy it.
The event was a good way for people to celebrate NZ Music Month with the chance to listen to a range of up-and-coming and established Southland artists. This event was the first of its kind for Invercargill. Organisers say it gives the performers a stage that isn't too daunting, with the library known as the living room of the community.
We like to think it's a fairly warm and welcoming space for those aspiring artists.
The weekend's success has encouraged organisers to look at running the event annually, providing a way for musicians to showcase their talent and passion for music. In Invercargill, the South Today.
That wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube and on the South Today NZ on Facebook to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.